and whatever I see is smiling at me. Love is who I am. Hello there, beloved Ascension pioneers, all you divine lovers out there, and welcome to this last in this year Ascension update for the month of December, which is actually a 12 month. And as you know, in astrology, basically tarot mixed with astrology, 12 is always a sign of that reversal, because we do have that hangman within this number. So it is when the whole year kind of turns over and a whole new vibration comes as to what follows. So I'm not going to be moving so much into that, into astrology, numerology. I usually do. I'm just going to give a little bit of insights because there's so many people sharing about this already. And as always with me, the focus will be on our personal ascension journey and self-mastery. So I just give these things as slight little bits and pieces because they're also important for our journey. Because what's happening with us as new masters, we're no longer tuning into just this and that as being our path towards more of the soul embodiment and enlightened mastery embodiment, but it's becoming the essence of everything. So it's not so much about what we do as in terms of accessing our spiritualization of our life force, but it's in how we do it and the essence of devotion that we do it through. So devotion is becoming so much important because the act of what is sacred and return to that which is minute, which is daily, which is the routine, which is the essential framework of how we live is becoming more structurally important than what we do. So it's about how we do it, how much grace we can cultivate through that, and how our own light gets to travel through as we're doing these beautiful sacred works. So sometimes if you're finding yourself too infinite and you have to move that infinite energy which you're learning to work with as a master of the new, and then how to bring it into your body, into the finite, into this structural way of living, sometimes it will be challenging. And the more you will expand, sometimes we will have these challenges that will make us access this and the new energy in a way that will be new. And that's where we're being constantly challenged because we're constantly expanding. So if you're imagining the energy that through which you're moving upward and ascending and spiraling towards more of that spirit self and the I amness, and then the downward spiral of life is also important. So for those of you who have already done this and you are connected to your spirit and you are always channeling your spirit and you are becoming your spirit, the ascension journey is becoming far more important now, and it will in the next cycle that we're opening and activating. So the number one frequency that follows along with us the next year, which is only a few weeks away basically. So it's about how then do we spiritualize our life force enough that we do that in the body, so that we're becoming these conduits of light and we're not just doing one thing or the other, but it's the essence of how we bring it all together. So I've been writing down a few things, here, that the unity of the new now and the new masters is about accessing our spirituality. So it's not about being spiritual, but just transducing our spirituality through many different ways and creative forms. So we do that through creativity and art, the I amness and focus to self-mastery, as well as the New Age. So even the New Age has a role to play because sometimes it brings us the information that will challenge us to go deeper into our discernment. So even that is a part of, for example, people who like to tune into all these New Age videos, and sometimes it will bring them the spark that they need to replace that, not to replace, but to shift it in a higher vibratory rate of how that can also serve our self-mastery. Because in terms of choosing this journey, and those of you who are really knowing that you've chosen that, it's serving you. Everything on this path is serving you. So it's not, I'm just going to do this and this is going to be my way towards spirituality. The masters of the new are just so multidimensional. They're so multiversal. They're so focused at the same time, but yet they're open to the vastness of how life force wants to express through us. So then you can use music, sound, dancing, divination, art, tarot, tools, the oracle cards, metaphysics, astrology, meditation. All of these are the ways of how we're harnessing that life force, how it wants to flow through us. So it's not just this just that, and thinking one way is correct or the other is correct, and why at times you're feeling so pulled to more meditate, the other times all you want to do is be in nature and hike and, you know, run, swim, whatever you're doing, and at other times you feel so centered in that vertical self. And what we're doing now is we're creating that balance, so it's not just vertical or horizontal, but it's the fusion of both in one integrated self. So watch my video about the new masters, the integrated masters, and the importance of that, because that's what we're becoming, that's what you're becoming. So the moment you choose this path of enlightened soul embodiment, it will become you, you're becoming it. And that's the reason behind my workings, because it's what I am becoming myself, my journey, my reflection, and my embodiment. And that's why I recorded the Soul Embodiment course, because it gives you the tools of understanding of how we're doing that in the practical, physical sense, how we relate to each other, how we communicate, how we're sharing with each other, and then how do we know to bring our life force down. So for me, a lot of this lately is becoming about that sacred devotional dancing, and recently someone shared a beautiful video with me about the importance of devotional dancing, and it really brought me back home in a way, because I was crying when I saw that. It was such strong soul triggering and memory that I knew it has to become a bigger part of my journey now, that I'm ready to incorporate more of that, and not to the degree to exclude other things. Because you see, that's the thing. The more we're authentic, the more we bring one thing in, it's not in a way limiting other things, because oftentimes we think that way when we're still linearly focused. We think, well, okay, if I'm going to do more of that, then that will be eliminated. But if you followed your self-expansion, you've probably noticed that when you choose something that's really authentic in the moment, and you know that's what's calling you at this time, it opened up the other gifts as well. So let's say you have a blockage in writing creative abilities, and you've always been a writer and you want to push forward. You think, I need to do more writing. Maybe at that time your soul is going to guide you to expand more in the direction of something else, and that also, because it's all interconnected, will expand your writing abilities, because it will give you new insights. So when I was doing lots of tantric yoga in the summer, that actually opened my doorway to that devotional dancing, because it made me more flexible and more receptive to that, which is to follow, which now I'm doing through that devotional dancing. So it's all interconnected, and the more we're going to see it like that, the easier this merging process of the vertical and horizontal will be for us. And I know that a lot of people speak about self-mastery and enlightenment, and it's still very from that upper perspective. But what I do is I bring you this perspective that this is not separate. Your divine self, your human self, they want to merge now. They are merging. So just as this insight a little bit about, I'm still going to mention this numerology of this 12 months. So this is that reversal. Sometimes we need to see things that, if we're having a personal crisis, which a lot of us, of course, the 9 year is ending, it's culminating, we can feel those last bits and pieces of things, like we're being squeezed. And I often talk about this, the perspective of being squeezed, like a cloth full of water, and it's like those last drops want to be squeezed through. This is how maybe perhaps some of you are feeling within this last 9 year cycle. And those of you who are really culminating in it, you're going to start this new oriented, more embodied, more practical, earthly enlightenment journey, because the masters of the previous ages have been all doing it in their own way, and they weren't here for the reason we're here. And we're chosen now for a specific journey of mastery that is unique, and it's ours. And even when we talk about, when people give you forecasts like what this month will bring, and no one can know. Even astrology can know. Although astrology, like I said, it's one of the facets that's also very important. If you know how to read it through your own consciousness, is how it will benefit you within your consciousness expansion. But it doesn't have, nothing has ultimate answers of all. They all have together. Like we, as different beings of our unique self, are having different resources and different knowledge databases. So this 12-month has, the 12-fold journey is always a culmination. And for me, it's very important. And the 13th octave begins to take place when we can do that reversal. But what's interesting about this month for me is that 12, the number of the month, which is December, adding up this 9 universal year frequency to it, we get 21, which is the world in the major arcana of tarot. So 21 becomes a 3, which is a strong creativity spark. So the 12 moving into the 21, these are mirror numbers. It's almost like we're running back to ourselves. We're seeing aspects of us that perhaps they were already always there, but we're seeing them in a new light. So sometimes where we have this perspective, like we're seeking something new to do externally or to bring into our routine, but in truth, what's behind it is the way we want to do things differently. What inside of us hasn't been integrated enough. And I did this beautiful, because I was asking questions. I always ask questions, and I was asking myself, but what is more about to share this month? Because I didn't receive a lot. It felt very blank, because a lot of us did create this blank space. And I talked about this before, and I teach about this in my courses. And the thing is that it felt like every time you still put that question outwards, you will get a reflection right back, and it came through. And I'm going to read you some of that writing. I wrote about this new way of how we integrate in the new, because it has to deal a lot with just the experience. It's not so much filtering like we used to know before, so a lot of the concepts that we know about spirituality and how things work are going to have to be replaced, and that is why this blank slate has to always be created. And for those of you who are very pure at heart, or very childlike, you have a greater capacity to receive things directly. You don't have so much knowledge that at times it can block you from that, because people who have been harnessing and gathering so much knowledge that at a certain point it piles up to the degree that it doesn't serve you anymore. You have troubles letting it go. So sometimes, the number 9 is also a number of so much knowledge. It's so ancient. But at certain times, before you can move into that culmination of the 10, which begins as a 1 again, you have to be ready and willing to let that knowledge go, because what's rightfully going to help you to create will come back anyway in a new refined light, because you are refining yourself. So to hold that knowledge so tightly, you can't move forward, and a lot of people are doing that. So it's people who sometimes are very dogmatic, and they come to you and you talk about ascension, and they will say, oh no, what ascension? That doesn't give you anything. The Christ has, the Jesus path does, because it promises you eternal life. What does ascension promise you? Lately someone has been writing me these messages. I'm like, what are they doing? Just writing to me? Just random person they see online that just like spreading the gospel, like trying to coerce people in these beliefs. And the reason behind it, and I know Osho speaks about that a lot, is because people who are very dogmatic, they're actually fearing death, and they're fearing change, so they need dogma to convince them that there's something out there that will give them the promise of something. And when we live in this eternal life that already is eternal, nothing can promise you eternity, because you already know you are eternal. You don't need any link to it. You don't need Jesus to save you or to promise you this. You are yourself, your I amness that's becoming spiritually enlightened in this body, in this form, becoming aware of itself, and then creating beautiful things as, sparks of that creativity and that creation, you as a co-creator self. So when you feel that dogmatic energy coming at you, just respect it, up and out, but feel what's the essence behind it, because you don't need to get those of us who are really strong in our vortex or strong in our embodied light, we don't need to react to anything of that nature anymore, because we understand what's behind it anyway. We understand why people are acting this way. They're still in fear. They want promises. They want to be promised an eternal life or eternal youth, or it's all fear. But when you are yourself in your true presence, you don't need that, because you already are all of that, and you're using your ability, your awareness to work with energy. And to work with energy is to constantly enliven yourself, to bring so much of the life force within you, to spiritualize it with the infinite spirit life force, and to bring it into your form, so that you will have capacity to always harness yourself, to have a youthful body, to have a youthful expression, to have a way of you being able to hold that amount of light into this form. So that was the challenge of many who are very highly evolved, and we could tune into greatest insights, but we still need something to ground us so that we can utilize that. So these things that we know can become tools. It can become artistic, can become creative, can become embodied. So that's what it's all about. Something else about astrology, we have this death energy present as well because of that. And death is that 13th octave. Even in tarot, death is the number 13. So now we have a lot of this pushing energy. And I've been writing down something. I've been following this astrologer. I'm talking about T-squares between Jupiter and Uranus and Pluto in between as that anchor point. So this also is a part of our culmination point, because I'm not an astrologer myself, but I really resonated with that information shared that Pluto is the planet of unknown. It's been late as in its discovery. We still don't know so many things about it, but it's been having lots of influences on us now. It's a generation planet. It's bringing lots of that structural power and the power of perseverance, but a lot of times through the love that for us, it's different, it's new, it's that raw. It's a raw power of love. It's just the love that brings and cuts and, just brings what we need. And a lot of times us as humans, we're like, what? What just happened? And this is now happening with this pushing. And a lot of us are being pushy ourselves. We want to push through our growth, and we're not understanding that this push is already happening. But we ourselves don't need to control these pushes. So this energy now, this T-square is happening, is between November and January. That's what I've been following, is actually pushing us more into just being receptacles, being receptive, and allow that everything that we've ever encompassed and are grounding now is merging, because the natural merge cannot occur with too much of the pushing in our own behalf. So we need to know what's dying, but let the death become what it is. We're constantly dying in this body, but that death is actually enlivening our life force even more, because we're just dying within the aspects of us that served us, and then anew, and we're constantly spinning. That's the rightful beingness. When you're an ascended being, you're constantly in that spin motion, and that requires adapting to that constant change. So, as in that Pluto thing, it's really important for us to also release the personal stories, because we need to move into the aspect of us that's beyond that story, and that's what's important now. So the awareness is birthed from the knowing that even though there's so many things we think we know and understand, and this is how it is, and this person did this to me, or I did that, or this was the storyline, in a lot of these cases, for those of us who are serving the greater good, we're just receiving that as pushes, as nudges, because we're actually shifting the energy of the collective. We're bringing in the consciousness, the new paradigm, and we need personal triggers because we do exist in this personalized body and uniqueness. And these are just triggers. They sometimes don't have to do anything with the other person. And when we think too much about it, what was the nature of the cause? What was this? What was that? We're getting away from that which is important and key and vital, which is what was the essence of the consciousness that was birthed after it. So sometimes things like that need time to develop, because things of greater nature always need time to develop, to evolve. And when we look at things too linearly, and I've been talking about this before, we can't see the gift. We're just seeing the stories. So watch my previous video on moving from stories to archetypes to essences and to the core of the self. And also understanding the nature of what creates as that new crystalline reality. And I have an audiobook. It's on my front page of Serapina Light. It's on the home page. And it says audiobook. It's about crystalline levels of creation, how to attune to that, how to harness it, how to align with that naturally within our soul. So that's about that. Let's move on to other things I want to share about this. So it's very important for us to transcend those stories, because the moment we do, we're going to be on the other side. When we are on the other side, we see the bigger picture. So you see, it's important to be in the minute, in the details, but within the presence of what we're feeling as in what's coming through within that experience. And there's actually a lot of that which is just coming from the collective unconscious, and that's a lot to deal with Pluto as well. So there's a lot of people who are still doing research on the planet Pluto. So you can take a look in how all these effects are looking into, and how they're actually playing with your own chart, because we all have a natal chart, and then these transitions that are happening, they're moving us within the different directions. We're being informed, and we're being triggered by those alignments in our own way. So for example, we just recently had a new moon in Sagittarius. It was on almost the last of November, but it was actually the beginning of the new month. So it's almost like a new year for us. And I did this latest Ascension blog on this, so read about that, because it's all described there what it is actually for us, because this is more important than just the January 1st or the New Year's. It's actually because the Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. And those of you who have a lot of Jupiter in your chart, And you can learn about this when you do your personalized work. And I did a lot of that for myself. And that's when I developed the course on galactic signature and how you can read your own stellar map. So you can get that on my page. But the point here is that the more we understand our natal positioning, the more we understand the transitions as well. Because the transitions are formed from the core, from the understanding of our core. So even when we have all those new moons or full moons, we can look at directly when that degree is happening, and when we can locate it in our chart. So specifically, this latest new moon was Sagittarius, the 7th degree. And for me personally, when I have a look at it, it's in my 12th house, because I start my ascendant, which is the first house, the exact point where your first house of self begins. For me, it's a 13th degree of Sagittarius. So 7th degree is my 12th house. So 12th house is that greater unconscious, that greater spirituality. It's the Piscean house. And for me, it's about starting with this new awakenings, having new epiphanies into this. And I did a lot of this writing, and this is one way I receive from this greater self, and I can, emit it forward. So if we have experiences that a lot of people would still describe as karmic, if you're a volunteer soul here, these are not karmic experiences, but they do deal with karmic energy, because you're helping to disintegrate that, to dissolve. There's only a few of us who can do that, who are able to do that immense transformational work, and we're the new energy leaders in a way. So that means that these cycles of energy, we are brave enough to dive right deeply into them, and we don't always know what's on the other side. Sometimes we think it's about this and that, and the more we do it analytically, the more we approach it analytically, the less we can see, because it's not about that. So to be courageous, courageous and aligned with the truth means that a lot of times you will have to be so open that you'll have to trust what's coming through, although it can be so new. And with this new energy, it's like none of us really knows what's going to come as a new epiphany, as a new insight. It can't be found in the books anymore. The books, the temples, the meditative techniques that were very specific, like just this or like that, are the ways you can enlighten yourself. That served for a lot of people who weren't able to be within the light without those tools. But if you're one of the beings who's just here in terms of anchoring new energy, you will have to be your own template. At a certain point, you're going to have to jump from that and find and culminate your own life force and how it shows you and teaches you about working with your energy. So this is what we're culminating. Those of you who are completing this 9-year cycle, and if your awakening was within those 9 years, it's a very specific calling for you in the next coming cycle. You start something completely new and radically new, and you might during this time get strong epiphanies about it and what it is. So stay open and alert. So these openings we're doing by these dissolutions of old energy, these create the new energy dynamics that hasn't been here before, and that's why it's still unknown to many of us. So we have to become, in a way, what did I write it here, as like this vessel for universal energy, and what is the highest manifestation of that truth attainment for us in the moment. And that's what we can only figure out by being radically open to completely new concepts. So even great metaphysics and teachers of the past ages that had so much, we're taking bits and pieces of that, so it gives us structure in our earthly embodiment, but then again we have to create a space of opening what's to come. So true beauty can be found in that, and a lot of times it will feel kind of scary for me. The fear factor can sometimes kick in when it says, but people won't get this, or they're not interested in that. They're more interested in readings and astrology and all of that. They want everyone to do that for them, or they're just reading the books about this. They're not willing to do their own, channeling of that new energy and new embodied mastery. And then sometimes I get like, this is disencouraged. And then I think, you know what, even if just a few people get it and they're moving on, then those few are the seeds that were meant to awaken at that time. So it's not about the numbers, it's not about what, it's about how, and the divine knows within. So lately a lot, even considering tarot, the Queen of Cups was coming through a lot. I've been seeing it not just in my own readings, but with a lot of other people as well, which is that maturity. And there's a new emotional experience that's being birthed through many of us. and how our emotions are becoming more enlightened emotions at this time. They're becoming more matriarchal in the sense of everything that we're experiencing, there's like a constant flow of forgiveness behind it. So even though something might feel very challenging, or something within you in the past would judge that and wouldn't understand that, now this different understanding is being born within many of you. So this, what I'm going to talk about now, is most important for this update, which is that things are coming to us directly now. These shifts are direct experiences, and these are meant to transform us. So it's not about what happened, the scenario, who it happened with, what was that person's lesson, what was the karma, what was your... It's not, for those of you completing this now, in a way you have to let it go as well. But it's a letting go process that occurs naturally when your soul is ready to embrace these new concepts. Remember, each time you're unfolding within a greater cycle, you'll have to become adept to new ways of functioning with it, that energy. So it's like sometimes these breakdowns will be openings for us. So there's a breakthrough following the breakdown. And these are the foundations of being shaken up in that way. So I'm going to read about the new template of shifting through direct experience. But before, I want to say something about letting go, because a lot of you, if you have an experience, you're still thinking, how can I let it go? Do I have to let the person go? Do I have to let the experience go? Did I already let it go? Did I forget that person? Should I do more work? It's a lot that's still present, especially in the new age, and a lot of forceful activity. But as a master self, imagine yourself being an illumined master in your presence. A master does not need to let things go. A master embraces things. So I've been writing about this, that a master does not need to let go in the old way anymore. A master embraces everything as it is without trying, changing. And everything serves our embodied self-mastery, and we know that. So letting go is needed when we're still practicing our conscious will, but the I am embodiment requires our superconscious connection, and that is the direct experience. So the ego still tries and needs to learn to utilize the will of the ego, because that's still a nature of that evolution. But there's nothing as such needed anymore when we are living in our own soul embodiment. So the nature of the dynamics changes here. So now I'm going to read from that automatic writing. And that's the key to this this integration of this Ascension update. So stay alert, be present with it, and see how that resonates within yourself. So here we go. We're in a completely different awareness now. Events that happen now are unable to be processed only through the filter of mental understanding, even emotional understanding. We can sometimes try so hard, no matter from how many different angles we're trying to access and see those different situations and scenarios playing out. But our embodied willed mastery is not analytical. It goes beyond the mind, even beyond the soul at times. As the soul is embodied, it begins to go beyond itself, transcending itself like Ouroboros, a snake eating its tail. With the intensity and things feeling like they're speeding up, it will become harder to process via understanding only. Integration, which is the key word for our integrity, can happen directly via experience now. We don't need to process so much anymore. That was our past knowing and understanding through the experience. Our bodies are now able to access and integrate energy directly. So the key words for this new now are experience, life force awakening through that experience, the soul embodiment that follows as the descension, transcendence via direct integration through that. So we have to also assume this is so. The more we know, this will become our natural experience. We can mentally say, okay, yes, okay, I resonate with this mentally, but we have to allow it to penetrate into our being, that we know on all levels of our embodied soul that this is our truth now. And for a lot of you, it will feel like this is it. Because if you had recently a situation when you really tried to understand it, and maybe weeks or months passed, and you still couldn't, and you felt this is because you haven't integrated it on all angles. And recently I had such an experience. And then once I asked myself, didn't I let it go because of this or that, everything was like a no. And then I said, did I not need to let it, didn't let it go because there's no need to? And it was like a yes, it was really strong yes. I'm like, wow. Because it changed. So sometimes trying to figure out the answers in a way of the old, When you try to gather that understanding, now the understanding is you, now the direct you just wants experience. And when the soul is embodied, of course, that naturally makes sense, because the embodied soul, direct experience, embodied soul, direct experience. It's really natural. So this is also in my soul embodiment course, so if you're guided, take that. But just knowing this and releasing the idea of constant processing via breath and direct knowing, so we receive more of that clear cognizance within ourselves and we activate it, will bring us into that peaceful understanding that's natural. Not the understanding that we're seeking or a spirituality that we're seeking, but the understanding that we are and we're becoming. So the breath work, any other form of being completely embodied. So physical activity is important because we breathe very deeply and slowly with that. So those who are moving more into direct experience self are closer to embodied mastery and complete presence and awareness. Direct experience without overthinking, overanalyzing, and questioning is key now. The more we practice and master that, the easier life will begin to feel for us. Difficulty means that we are still not aligned with the new energy. The threshold might feel lonely sometimes because not many are ready to take that leap jump yet, but the courageous ones will pave the way for more to follow. So if you feel resonance with this, but people around you in your close circle don't yet, and you feel you still have to be there, you don't have to be. You can only be where you need to be and where you already are. It is time to actually marvel at this, even if we're still adjusting to this new space of cognizance. Life is being birthed anew through this time tunnel of death and renewal. Those who have truly moved with the new energy have actually taken every concept, every spiritual questioning, every spiritual concept that ever was, and questioned it to its core. And once this is done, there is no more need to repeat, only to live it. Life changes, it simplifies and loosens up now, if you're ready. Things need to make less sense, and what used to be a known concept before, like we have about karma, no longer does. It's a letting go it's becoming. Things will feel majorly challenged, and nothing of old will spark up that much interest anymore. Life wants to be born anew through new human consciousness. And when you're having that experience, which is very common now, that you feel like you've wasted all your resources and you've done so much integration and this and that, and you're thinking, what now? And you're not receiving anything, don't force it. Because what's happening now is that all these essences that we've been accessing and activating within all those 9 years, especially those of you who have been awakening within those years, and especially those of you who have been awakening prior to 2012. Because during that pivotal gateway of 2012, you've already done that, that cultivation that helped you to help others in a way, just naturally helping yourself to understand more about this. And if you've, in this cycle, you've made a leap jump from awakening to already self-mastery, then you're one of those fast, speeded individuals who are really here to serve the whole. But that's not a kind of service that is sacrificial, that you have to negate yourself to serve the whole, but you have to become more of yourself to serve the whole. So it's that kind of thing. What's happening also, have been shown that this time during the new moon in Sagittarius, there's going to be a full moon in between. It's going to be in Gemini, I think. And then that's around 13th. And then towards the 21st of solstice, which for us here in the north is the winter solstice. For those of you in the south, it's vice versa. But this period is so important. I've been shown that there is going to be immense gathering of that synthesis happening. When you won't have so much need to make sense of things or why you're doing certain things a certain way. Because as a human still in learning about itself, we have so much of this questioning going on, and we do need, and we want answers, and we want to understand everything. But as you walk through that threshold into this new mastery, you will need to understand less. You will need to make less sense, like the writing here from Spirit said. It will have to be a direct experience. For example, you do something that in the past you could judge yourself for it. And now you're just doing it. You're not even thinking about it. You're not even asking yourself, is it right for me to do this? Is this wrong? Because your life force, when you do that synthesis and merging point, within you, this spiritualization of your physical utilization becomes so pragmatic, so real, that you don't doubt that reality for one more second. And that's embodied mastery, that's embodied soul. Because the disembodied soul, the fragmented soul, still questions and doubts, and and we all had still little leftovers of that. Even those of you who've been doing profound self-mastery, you still had parts that felt separate. There's still parts, even if they're not yours, you're feeling the collective that can sometimes feel so fragmented and so scattered. And what's happening now within the world at large is a mirror of that, which is the collective soul and conscious coming to the conscious. And here on earth, that's a very dramatic experience many times. So what's really important now is that those of you who are so highly advanced in terms of your knowledge and references and so much energy, and you receive a lot through meditation, even the connection with the astral planes, with your dream time, and the messages you're receiving, the tools of putting that into conscious embodiment and practice are going to become more important than that which is just the information self. And not more, but more to the degree until you equalize it. Then it's going to be just as important as. That's unity. That's the embodied essence of unity consciousness. Spirit, matter, equally important. But sometimes you tend to go to the extreme of one thing so you can equalize it with the other extreme perhaps you've been moving into until it's equally ripe and right. So the birds are saying yes. They're agreeing with me here. That's always nice to know. So I wanted to also did a special, which is because it's the last month. I wanted to record something for you, like a sacred attunement. I didn't do that for quite a while now, and I really wanted to bring through my gifts of that to, in a way, to help you spark up that within you. So it's kind of like a merged essence of singing, movement, light, coming through sound and movement. And for me, that is already the deepest form of light language. So what I want to say is observe this key time period, what you're receiving. Do your work as well. Get informed. If you haven't done enough research for your own soul and how you, as probably being star-seeded, being informed through many layers of other realities that are higher densities, do that research, or get my galactic signature course, or any kind of other star map reading that is not just about what's coming into your life, love, career, blah blah. It's about more in terms of knowing yourself and your unique gifts and your unique life force expressions that you came here but a very specific way in your individualized self to bring forth for this very important time. So even if parts of your life feel small, and sometimes I feel like that too, just here in the Alps, sometimes it feels like, wow, it's just me. But it's not small. These are small acts of grand gestures and grace coming through and divine mercy. So forgive what you haven't forgiven yet, but not because the new year is coming, but because the new you is coming. So that's important. That's what Spirit message was. And forgive yourself mostly for thinking you need to be somewhere else but here. And forgive that part which still feels scattered and searching and wants more. Because in a way that part served you to, to see those reflections that showed you already are where you need to be. Because sometimes you need to go somewhere just to see, wow, I didn't actually need to be there. What I needed was the experience of being there. So now I know how it is to be here. I know it sounds very ethereal, but those of you who are doing your inner work, you will know what's meant by that and how it feels in your heart resonance. So that's how we're learning to feel. The heart is the merging point of all of ourselves, and this is where a majority of our being informed in a new way feels and comes through, and how we're working with the new energy. Because through this new energy, like I said, we're receiving everything. We're being abundant through the new energy in a crystalline way. We're being active and engaging with our life force in this way. So it has to come down to practical embodiment. And I really advise you, if you're guided, give yourself the gift, take the soul embodiment course or any other kinds of tools I have on my page. As well as I've said, I'm moving more towards the dancing expression. These sacred dances are now as offerings on my page as well. All my links to the offerings that I offer are always down below, shared in the information box. And I wish you a beautiful season, holiday season as well. But for a lot of you, this will feel like a time to nurture your soul, to rest, to take more time just to be human, which means to breathe, to be in your body. I'm not saying to be a human, like, get in the human patterns and the old dramas. No, when I say to be human means to be sensual, to be embodied, because when we talk about the nature of these different energies that are descending to this planet, there's gateways and gateways before then reaching you as in your physical vessel for the embodied light, so imagine how much this energy is to travel until it meets you and you meet yourself on a human level. So it's like these planetary deities are stepping stones and stepping kind of tools for the energy to be translated in different ways. So then we have this unknown planet Pluto, right? It's this mystery, we don't know. And then we have the gateway of the Neptunian universal law, which then steeps further down, and which strongly for me feels like a soul expansion stepping stone, is that Jupiter energy. And this is where the energy of the soul gets felt and really starts to become, through that expansion motion, wanting to be brought into further density levels. And through Venusian love, we get to, Venus is a strong portal for other dimensional energies here on the planet. And then that love becoming more realized, more self-realized. So that higher love of the Neptunian quality, merging through our own soul expansion, becoming more physical, and then even becoming through more active physical energy, which is that active energy, right? Mars. Then we have Mercury, communication, and how do we bring that forth? How do we communicate that that physicality into our form, into the body? And then our sun always gives us the light to translate all of that. So you see, then it hits the planet Earth, the heart of the matter, and it's us and in these bodies. So the energy is like filtering through all these different frequencies, and at the same time, they're all one. So the same goes for you and your different various expressions of your essences. It's all one thing. And as above, so below. So we in these bodies experiencing everything that's also experienced as the energy travels forth. But one thing is to just be pure energy. The other is to work with that energy and to have a human consciousness, which is to be a master creator. If we choose it. If we firmly know that's what we can be, what we are, and our truth. So again, I wish you a beautiful time. I wish you a beautiful month with lots of realizations and creativity. And those reversals that will make you see things in a new way, in a new light. I hope the reading resonated with you as well. So watch for the sacred offering to follow. And I love you all so very much. As always, with so much love, wisdom, and power. Take care and enjoy. Absolutely enjoy. Bye-bye. to our sacred offering for the month of December, which is a very special month because we're always completing a year and before we're entering a new one. So I'm not yet sure what's going to come through, but but today is this spontaneous flow. So I was guided to have my little companion here with me to help me with the sound support. And what I wanted to do also is to show you this white lotus candle. I've been using it this week because it's meant to, again, create that blank slate and the feminine masculine balance, because when that white slate is created, we're actually in that dynamics of being open to all and our infinite possibilities. Whether that is more an internal journey for you or more externalized, it matters not, because we're here as different beings on the planet with different missions. What is important is for wherever we are and whatever our role is within the divinity of all, in the perfection of creation, that we find the balance within that standing realm. So that's why I was guided today to do a little bit of the white and silver and gold, feminine masculine balance. Again, it's not about who's wearing what, it's about the essence of that grounded embodied balance. So my intention for this offering at this time is for us to feel really safe and nurtured in the space as we're transitioning and completing this 9-year cycle, which for a lot of us still feels a little tense sometimes. And we're feeling almost like, okay, what else can there be, And we're so used to always being something there and something coming up next and layers, that it's time for us to surrender that. It's time for us to surrender to more simplicity. It doesn't have to be always so dramatic. A lot of the times we say we don't want the drama, but then the peace is offered to us and we miss the drama and we miss the, the trivial human things sometimes, because we were so used to them that it's a part of our being that still wants that. So for us who are living a very secluded sometimes alpine life here in the mountains, a lot of the times there might be this feeling like we're missing out on something, or should be living a different way, or more city kind of life base. But in truth, we're choosing what we're choosing for a reason. And after this 9-year cycle, it's very much important that we come into a realization that wherever we are is perfect, and that no matter how sometimes we're trying to boggle at everything, and want answers and confirmation about it. I'm laughing because we just having the, when these people who come with the bells, they come here every year. They visit the village, so they're making sound with the bells, which is perfect. It's kind of going in alignment. So they're helping with the music. I'm not sure you can hear them. They're in the back, right? So before we began recording this video, I said to her, because she was laughing, I said, please don't laugh. It's supposed to be a serious video. Now you're both laughing. So I think this is good that they actually coming. Can you hear them? They're having these cowbells, right? Cowbells. Yes. Yeah, and they're ringing. This is a ceremony, ritual, still traditional here in the villages, and they help especially. So they come here dressed, these furry costumes. We have this holiday, December 6th. It's actually a religious holiday, but I never experienced this before moving here in the Alps. And I've actually seen this is still a tradition. So it's kind of funny trying to record a video, and this is exactly when they pop up and during their music. So as well as they're doing their bell music, and they're actually with this, they're creating a lot of that. Bells always create a dissolution of energy. So I'm trying to remain serious in the video and do a little work of, yeah. So let's see. So just close your eyes for a few seconds, minutes, moments. And just feel the beauty of life as it presents itself to you, through you, as you. And that there is absolutely nowhere to push. There's absolutely nowhere in need of being. Simply finding ourselves wherever we are in the moment is perfect. And recognizing that that pull towards something that is in the moment is truly occurring through the beauty and grace of our life force, which is the direct information for us through our spirit. It is not coming through external influences. It is coming directly through the information of our soul, traveling through the beauty of our hearts, becoming the wisdom of our light. So as we are traveling those final few days and weeks of this magical journey that we know as life, can you hold the intention within yourself that everything is always within infinite balance, that you hold that balance, that you hold that will, and the intention to simply do according to that. And that you are always called through your soul first, beyond anything else. That calling knows where you need to be, who you will share that with, and how are you continuing to move forward. Blessed be, and I'll see you soon. Take care, and we love you all so very much. Take that free life force activation that I offered on my SoundCloud profile, because it helps you to be informed through the infinite spirit life force and then merging it with your physical body as you are becoming more of that in your grounded, embodied soul mastery. Thank you. So much love.